April 2024 marks the 10th anniversary of Granblue, a hilarious, borderline absurd diving manga, and a series I've covered multiple times before on the channel. In the past, I've reviewed the anime. I've also reviewed the live-action movie. I even, in a separate video, went over a deleted scene from the live-action movie. Furthermore, I've previously touched on its relationship to the series Tenpuru. I also brought Granblue up a number of times during my reaction to the Tenpuru anime. Suffice it to say, I have a history of covering Granblue, its various adaptations and relationships. However, what I haven't done is specifically touch on the manga. Even more specifically, while the manga tends to be praised for its comedic aspect, I want to touch on beneath the surface of drunken naked hijinks, academic skullduggery, or even picturesque scuba diving, that Granblue is a coming-of-age story. And not just for Iori, but Chisa, Aina, and Kohei as well. Before diving in, at the time of this video, the Granblue manga is still ongoing, and I don't know how much longer the series will run. I wanted to draw attention to a potential underlying aspect of Granblue, and the 10th anniversary of the series seemed as good a time as any. So just keep in mind, any aspect or conclusion that I draw is based on what's come out so far, which the most recent chapter at the time of this video is chapter 92, or, well, the extra side story chapter that came out after chapter 92. That is to say, there's a possibility that something could happen later in the manga that might change my perspective on the series or on a character. Something I find that it's actually pretty good at doing. Anyway, as you may imagine, this video contains spoilers for those who have only watched the anime and for those who aren't completely caught up on the manga chapters available on K-Manga. Viewer discretion is advised, but maybe what I discuss in this video will give you incentive to check out and get caught up on the manga. Without further ado, let's dive in to Granblue. I don't want to spend too much time on the synopsis of the series, since I've covered it multiple times, but just as a refresher, Granblue starts with Iori moving into his uncle's dive shop to attend university, living alongside his cousins, the ocean-obsessed Chisa, and the kind-hearted, sister-loving Nanaka. Iori is quickly forced to join the scuba diving club Peekaboo by Tokita and Kotobuki, who are just as likely to have crazy drinking parties as they are to actually dive. Iori soon swindles the anime-loving Kohei into the club. The two eventually meet the free-spirited Azusa, and later encourage the shy and timid Aina to join the club as well. Granblue depicts a comedically exaggerated view of college life and being a young adult, occasionally making parody of other sports and series, but notably always takes the scuba diving seriously. Following young adults as it does, there's once in a while some drama between the characters or their family, and knowing these are hormonal college students, most of them away from home and away from their parents for the first time, the series from time to time focuses on romance, much more so later in the manga. It's a fun, ridiculous comedy, but the characters are grounded just enough in reality to make them really endearing at times. I do want to preface that I understand that Granblue's form of comedy may not be for everyone. The heavy drinking, the abundant nudity, the unscrupulous friend groups, while entertaining and comedic for some, could be a turnoff to someone else. And it's okay not to be a fan of that stuff. In fact, you're probably a decent person with good morals if some of the stuff makes you think twice before getting further into the series. That is to say, I could see that for some there could be a barrier of entry to Granblue. However, if you can find some of that stuff funny, or are able to take some of it in stride, I think you'll be rewarded with some very charming characters in Iori, Chisa, Kohei, and Aina that, compared to the other characters in the series, are still very much trying to figure themselves out, as well as their futures and relationships. Obviously, you can like, enjoy, or prefer any of the other characters in the series, but it's these four that I find are learning and growing the most in the manga. It's not always continuous or in a straight line. The story has its twists and turns, but I'd say 99% of the time, the story is being told from either Iori, Chisa, Aina, or Kohei's perspective. It's their internal thoughts that are what are often portrayed to the viewer or reader, as it is their coming-of-age story. What I've attempted to do for this video is categorize 4 major character groups in Grand Blue that helps explain a character's role within the story, that will hopefully be easy to follow and understand. As funny as Grand Blue and the characters can be, I find that they have other values as well in helping Iori, Chisa, Aina, and Kohei come of age, grow as characters, and as a person. From major reoccurring characters to some who have only shown up a handful of times. I'll be referring to these 4 character groups as the main characters, the guiding characters, the challenging characters, and the reinforcing characters. I'll be breaking things down more in a moment, but the idea to keep in mind is that the main characters are the ones learning and growing the most in the story. The guiding characters help guide and encourage the main characters. The challenging characters provide challenges and obstacles for the main characters to overcome. And the reinforcing characters reinforce or highlight flaws and shortcomings in the main characters. Also, keep in mind that some of the events I discuss may not be in any chronological order. The main characters. The main characters, as you've probably gathered by now, are Iori, Chisa, Aina, and Kohei. The order somewhat reflects how often the story is told from their perspective. Early chapters and the anime are more Iori-centric, but it becomes a bit more balanced between the 4 as the manga progressed and had story arcs that revolved around them. It's certainly not out of place for a chapter, or even an entire story arc, to be from Chisa or Aina's point of view these days in the manga. A Kohei-centric chapter is still a bit of a surprise when it happens, but it is always a welcome one. Iori Kitahara, as a person, tends to be very accepting of others, not really ever belittling anyone's hobbies or even their personalities. At the beginning of the series, he's a little reluctant to try something new, like diving, partially due to his own fear of the water, but thanks to Chisa suggesting Nanaka to show him the underwater view at the aquarium, he wants to overcome that fear and see the actual underwater world with his own eyes. Chisa Kodagawa, in contrast, is much more aloof and antisocial compared to Iori. Her dream is to become a diving instructor, like her sister Nanaka. However, her own personality doesn't really make for a good diving instructor. As the series has progressed, there are times when Chisa does try to step outside her comfort zone, be less aloof, be more social, and generally tries to be more engaging with the people around her. Kohei Imamura is someone who is really wrapped up in his anime otaku hobby. Iori and him have similar wavelengths, it seems, and the two quickly become thick as thieves. At the start of the series, Kohei is more interested in the 2D world, but thanks to diving and perhaps a certain girl, has gradually become invested in the 3D world. Out of the 4 main characters, it actually might be Aina Yoshiwara who has grown the most so far. Aina started the series off trying to do anything she could to fit in somewhere, even if it meant be in the joke, going so far to apply some very cakey makeup to overcome her shyness or inhibitions. Thanks to Iori and Kohei, she's able to find a group of people who will accept her for who she is. As the series has progressed, we've seen her become more confident with herself and rely on the horrendous makeup less and less. She's also one of the few people we see Chisa be able to open up and talk to about more serious matters, stuff Chisa hasn't told her sister or even Iori. Over the course of the series, we see these 4 grow closer as friends, and perhaps in the future, a couple of them becoming more than friends. Currently, their priority is the diving club Peekaboo. The upperclassmen will be stepping away from club activities when they become seniors. They have job placement and are dealing with their final year of college, so our main four will have to step up. However, the series has hinted that Kohei likes Aina. Thus far, he has resigned himself to being a wingman for Aina, as she quite obviously likes Iori, who tends to be a bit dense when it comes to any of Aina's attempts to win his affection. Chisa and Iori, I guess, are officially kind of together, maybe? I'm not sure what to call it. If you've seen the anime or read the early chapters of the manga, you know that they are pretending to date so Chisa doesn't get hit on by a bunch of guys. Later in the manga, they both agree to continue to pretend to date as it benefits both of them. Chisa seemingly having feelings for Iori she hasn't quite made sense of at this point, and Iori seemingly wanting more out of the relationship they already had, wanting to spend more time with Chisa, hanging out, or potentially going on dates with her. The series has implied Chisa and Iori for a while, like nearly a decade now. Whether that's your preferred ship or not, I understand that could be another barrier of entry for some getting into Grand Blue, considering they are introduced as cousins at the start of the series. This won't be a hill that I die on, but just remember that the story is set in Japan, that the series reveals later that they aren't blood related. Iori's father was adopted by Chisa's grandparents on her mother's side, and at the end of the day, they are both adults. It's their decision whether they date or not in this hilarious and also fictional story. I certainly find it more palatable than some relationships in Game of Thrones, or even here in Grand Blue with whatever Nanaka has been doing in Chisa's room. Anyway, Iori, Chisa, Aina, and Kohei have been through a lot together. Not only are they still learning about each other, but they are still learning about themselves too. They have people around them who have helped them with that. They've also run into people that have made things difficult for them. But all of it has helped them grow and mature to become better versions of themselves. All part of their coming of age story. The guiding characters. The guiding characters that are done growing, who are mature as any character is going to be in a series like Grand Blue, that at some point before the story began, have already had a coming-of-age story. In other words, they have life experience. They are also willing to help guide and nurture the growth of the main characters. These characters don't just help and instruct the main characters with diving, but also help them navigate life. This primarily includes Chisa's sister, Nanaka Kotogawa, the club's upperclassmen, Rujiro Kotobuki, Shinji Tokita, and Azusa Hamaoka. I'd also consider Chisa and Nanaka's father, Toshio Kotogawa, as part of this group as well. I'd even go so far to include the character we simply only know as Chief, but more on her later. Nanaka is Chisa's bubbly, kind-hearted older sister, but also has a terrifying level of sister complex towards Chisa. I'd say most of Nanaka's helpfulness is geared more towards instructing the main characters in diving, making sure that they are informed and safe while underwater. She is a diving instructor after all, and is a role model for Chisa in that regard. Kotobuki and Tokita are the heart of most of Pab's shenanigans. However, they both provide a similar role for the main characters, usually directed towards Iori and Kohei. Their advice also tends to be more diving orientated, teaching the do's and don'ts, but at times sprinkle in some valuable life lessons, such as not being afraid to try new things. Of the four guiding characters that are heavily involved with Pab, Azusa deals the most with instilling life lessons and mediating relationships. Whether it's the senpai-kohai relationship of the upperclassmen and the freshman members of the club, the relationship between friends, or even romantic relationships, she has seemingly tried to help all of the main characters at one point or another. Whether it's helping Aina make lasting memories, or trying to nudge Chisa out of her shell, Azusa has quietly guided the main four into becoming better versions of themselves. All the stuff the upperclassmen in the club have done isn't lost on the freshmen, especially since learning that the upperclassmen will be stepping down from the club when they become seniors. Iori, Chisa, Aina, and Kohei have tried to make the most out of the time they have left together. Chisa's father, Toshio, is a bit more prevalent at the beginning of the series. He's kind and thoughtful, usually fitting in with Tokita and Kotobuki early on, but doesn't show up too much later in the manga. He gives Iori some initial encouragement, and does the same for Iori's sister, Shiori, later. This might sound crazy, but one of the most impactful guiding characters for Chisa is a character that we don't even know her actual name. She's only ever referred to as Chief, and is part of the staff that works at the dive shop that Chisa's mother runs in Palo. Not only does Chief give Chisa advice on what she can do to be a better diving instructor, that we see Chisa apply later when Iori was freaking out that he thought Kohei lost his V-card before him, but Chief also gives Chisa advice on communicating in relationships that we see soon after Chisa tried to apply when talking with her mother. Chief even gives Iori the missing piece of the puzzle to what caused some of the animosity between Chisa and her mother, which helps him smooth things over for Chisa. Chief, low-key, has been an important character for Chisa's growth and development, as well as Chisa's relationship with Iori, so I find it wild that we don't know her actual name. The challenging characters. The challenging characters. Characters that are mostly done growing themselves, but provide a challenge or obstacle for the main characters to overcome, that are confronting or provoking them in some way, and are some of the most crucial in facilitating growth in our main characters. That's not just true here in Grand Blue, but in any good character-driven story. There are quite a few characters in Grand Blue that I think do a good job of challenging either Chisa, Iori, Aina, or Kohei, if not all or most of them at once. That include Kudo, Kaya Mizuki, Yukiko Hayashi, Chisa and Nanaka's mother, Sayaka Kotogawa, and among the most important, Sakurako Busujima. For a time, Busujima was a potential love interest for Iori, having gotten to know each other at the restaurant they both work at. Naturally, this presented a challenge to Aina, but specifically Chisa. Busujima and Chisa have a very contentious relationship. A rivalry quickly unfolded after they first met. They are very much oil and water, both seemingly growing envious of how close the other was to Iori. Busujima has been instrumental in Chisa slowly recognizing and coming to terms with her feelings for Iori. She gave Chisa the much-needed wake-up call. It's pretty obvious how Busujima's character is meant to challenge Chisa, and to a degree Aina, as a romantic rival. Grand Blue never quite progresses into harem levels. It more plays out as a love triangle involving 4 people. So a love quadrilateral, I guess. However, Busujima also presents a challenge to Iori, and without getting too into specifics, comes down to Iori choosing her or choosing Pab. It should be noted that as Busujima ramped up her pursuit of Iori and the two were seeing each other more often, the story became more romance-focused. Diving and Pab-related hijinks take a bit of a back seat in the manga for a while, reflecting Iori's priorities at the time, who admits that he got wrapped up in the excitement of hanging out with Busujima and the potential of losing his V-card. Ultimately, Iori selects his friends and the time they have left in Pab over Busujima, though she in turn calls the whole thing off herself to save face. That's just the type of person she is. But I think at the end of the day, Iori gains some real-world dating and relationship experience that he'll be able to learn from and apply better in his next relationship. Characters like Kudo and Hayashi have targeted the main characters and Pab more as a whole, Kudo from the tennis club in a more friendly rivalry sort of way, Hayashi, one of the other girls from university, in a more hates Chisa and everyone around her kind of way. Both require Iori, Chisa, Kohei, and Aina to unite and work together to overcome the hurdle. The singer and voice actor Kaya Mizuki indirectly has been someone for Kohei to overcome, He goes into a bit of a spiral after he learns she is getting married, but eventually is able to let go and be happy for her happiness. Chisa's mom, Sayaka, is quite stern with Chisa. She does not think Chisa has the right personality to be a diving instructor like Nanaka. She thinks Chisa is too moody and socially awkward, especially around men. It's some of the most drama-filled moments in Grand Blue so far, the relationship between Chisa and her mother. Chisa even going to college is part of the deal she made with her mother so that she can keep pursuing her dream of becoming a diving instructor. It all added a bit of realism to Chisa's character, this sort of teenage angst that she has with her mother. While I wouldn't say they are all hunky-dory now, they were able to come to a mutual understanding with a little help from Iori. The reinforcing characters. Characters again that are mostly done growing themselves, but reinforce or highlight the less desirable traits or shortcomings of the main characters. This includes Iori and Kohei's group of friends from college, Aina's group of friends, and like the one friend Chisa has outside of PAB right now, Naomi Otoya. Iori and Kohei's quote-unquote friends from college include Hajime Nojima, Shinichiro Yamamoto, Yu Mitorai, and Kenta Fujiwara. They constantly bring out Iori and Kohei's more scummy, underhanded behavior, which has been beneficial at times and is often hilarious to watch unfold, but just as likely will land them in more hot water somewhere down the line and is equally hilarious to watch unfold. Aina's friend group is thankfully a bit more normal. Aina's group of friends include Kanako Ida, Kyoko Kamio, and Keiko Suzuki. They are a much better friend group than Iori and Kohei's group of friends, often trying to help Aina the best they can by giving her advice, but just as often highlight how shy or naive Aina is when it comes to romance and relationships. Naomi Otoya is a co-worker at the restaurant alongside Iori and Busujima. Otoya is also into scuba diving and is in a diving club in high school. After they first met, Otoya and Chisa quickly became friends. Otoya reveals to Chisa that he kind of has a thing for Iori, which leads to maybe one of the funniest misunderstandings in Grand Blue, but he also has a better personality for becoming a good diving instructor, which emphasizes and calls attention to Chisa lacking that type of personality that sets up a point of contention later in the story for Chisa and her mother. The uncategorized characters. There are a few characters in Grand Blue that I think are worth mentioning, but don't quite fit into a specific group. The German tourist Karina, the college professor Ushironomiya, and Iori's little sister Shiori. You could probably make the case that Shiori could fit into the challenging characters, as she comes up with multiple schemes to get Iori to come back home and take over the family business, an old-style inn, so she doesn't have to worry about it anymore, and she can do what she wants with her life. However, she's fairly young and, similar to the main characters, is someone who is still learning valuable life lessons and potentially still growing as a person. Professor Ushironomiya is one of the professors at the university for Iori, Chisa, and Kohei. Being a professor, you'd think he'd be more of a guiding character, molding and shaping young minds, maybe even a challenging character as he academically tests and gives exams to his students, which are things he does try to do, whether trying to help Chisa when she needed someone to talk to about her feelings for Iori, or teaching a class as you'd expect. However, his methods don't differ too much from Iori and Kohei's friend groups, and he ends up reinforcing some of their more underhanded behavior. The professor has been a fun addition, but not one I would place in any one character group. Karina, a student from Germany that Iori, Chisa, Kohei, Shiori, and Busujima have all met at one point or another, is very interested in certain aspects of Japanese culture. She doesn't quite fit into any group. Again, she could probably fit into the challenging characters, as she's just that hard of a person for the other characters to wrap their heads around, but she might have some room for growth. However, her levels of perversion almost make Nanaka and Kohei seem normal, and her lustfulness almost makes Azusa and Busujima look like pure-hearted maidens. She also thinks Iori wants to marry her, and gazes at Chisa and Shiori like they are some kind of prime meat. I'm not sure if she is unquantifiable or if I'm just afraid to group her with anyone else. Karina has only shown up a handful of times, but she's clearly the wild card here in Grand Blue.
Wild card, bitches! Yeah!
Hopefully, this video demonstrated that Chisa, Iori, Aina, and Kohei have been through a lot together and have had many encounters that have helped them grow as characters and as a person. Whether as a helpful guiding nudge or through confrontation, the people the main characters meet have been indispensable in their coming of age, gradually maturing and bit by bit and becoming better versions of themselves. Grand Blue depicts characters that are still young and are learning to make the most out of their youth, which should come to no surprise, as it seems to be reflected in the title itself. Obviously, Grand Blue is a reference to the ocean and by proxy, diving. But as a little lesson on the Japanese language, the Japanese word for blue, ao, has a lot of similar connotations that the word green has here in English. It can refer to someone who is inexperienced or young. It's part of the reason why you see the words ao or blue in so many anime titles. It's a reference to youth. If the series was called Grand Youth instead, it would still very accurately depict the type of story it is. And applying that to the English title of the series, Grand Youth Dreaming, almost makes a little more sense than Grand Blue Dreaming. As a bit of housekeeping, I want to acknowledge that I didn't go into detail about every character or their dynamic with others outside the main characters. I didn't dive into the relationship that the upperclassmen have with each other, such as Azusa liking Nanaka and Tokita, but not being able to pursue either right now. There are crazy characters like Mitarai and his girlfriend Rie that I didn't go into. I didn't cover Busujima liking but getting rejected by Otaya or her friendship with Rie. I also didn't mention that someone like Kudo can be really insightful at times, helping give Iori some perspective. The idea of putting characters into groups was to illustrate how their interactions with the main characters helped Iori, Chisa, Aina, and Kohei grow and mature. However, doing it in that way may not have fully explored the depths of the other characters. Because honestly, there are probably 10 to 12 characters in Grand Blue that are defined or developed enough that they could easily be someone's favorite, and I'd understand. There is a lot to like about a lot of these characters. At this point, I've probably over-explained what first and foremost is a comedy series. While it can be serious, dramatic, or heartwarming at times, its primary goal is to make you laugh and put a smile on your face, and Grand Blue often does that for me. That said, I don't know how much longer the series will run. I think if things wrapped up or ended too quickly, I'd be disappointed, as there is just so much that could potentially be done with these characters still. But for now, I've been enjoying the ride, watching Iori, Chisa, Aina, and Kohei experience their coming of age story. This has been a bit of a long video that you might be able to tell by the sound of my voice, so if you made it this far, thank you for watching. Go ahead and let me know your thoughts on Grand Blue down in the comments, your favorite characters or favorite moments. Feel free to let me know. As always, a special thanks to Plus tier members, and with all that said, thanks for watching, see you later. I'm gonna go drink some tea with honey. Bye bye.